to Gnostic Cape, a show dedicated to uncovering some of life's tougher truths. In today's show, we're going to cover a super-duper great big mystery. This mystery covers the disappearance of millions of young men from around the world. Oh sure, you can still see these men walking and talking, but for all intents and purposes, they're not really there. Or at least that's what we keep hearing from the mass media today. For more on the mystery of the disappearing man, we turn our earthbound satellites skyward and tune into our favorite of furries, our greatest of great apes, the one that puts the prime back into primate, Gnostic Ape! Gnostic Ape! Gnostic, can you hear us? Captain Donkeytron, this is Red Rocket, come on in.
Don Jivis, you flatter me. Where would we be without you? As Don stated, women these days seem to be unable to find a good man despite the fact that men make up almost half the human population. Why is this? How exactly are women defining a good man, we ask? In the past, men were typically thought to be strong, resourceful, confident, courageous, responsible, intelligent, stoic, and honorable. What the hell happened? Our hunter-gatherer ancestors would have probably defined a good man as one who was healthy, a strong runner, good at hunting, protective, and resourceful. As our societies grew more complex, a more nuanced picture of the desirable man was co-created. Desirable men were determined to be the ones with the greatest impact on the world around them. Given that men are generally goal-oriented, this suited them just fine. Having these positions to strive for gave men a sense of purpose and motivation, or at the very least a clear objective to strive for. These paths typically included some traditional rites of passage, a formal inculcation into manhood. However, in modern Western culture, men no longer retain a unique role in society. Given society's pace of change in the last 100 years or so, the prior 150,000 years of what defined a good man no longer apply. The advancement of women has turned the old male paradigm on its head and eliminated the provider roles that men had previously held for longer than recorded time. As the required role of a man becomes more ambiguous, so does a clear definition of what it means to be a good man. Ask women what they want out of a man, and you'll get answers as unique as the women you're asking. If they're expecting all men to conform to their personal definition of what's good, they will be, by statistical probability, disappointed. Modern marketing machines tell men and women alike that they are special, unique individuals with discerning taste, that they can have anything and everything they want, including the partner of their dreams. So, they go looking. But without a society that explicitly states what is clearly desirable, women are left to decide amongst themselves what is in fact desirable in males. Perhaps this wouldn't be a problem if women weren't so adamant that this was in fact an issue. In order for us to get a better understanding of where the men of today have gone, we must understand where they've come from. To begin with, we must accept that men and women are animals first, and members of a culture and society second. This is key to understanding most dilemmas witnessed in modern cultures. All cultures and society are built upon the foundation of an ancient reptilian brain that still sits within us. The instincts of the human animal should easily be discerned by looking at other primate species. In all primate troops, the roles of males and females are clearly defined. These roles aren't defined by committee or voted on. There isn't a suggestion box, and you can go stuff your complaints in your ass. Unhappy members simply leave or are thrown out. Males typically scout for food and provide protection from other animals and competitors. Primate babies and humans in particular take a long time to raise to maturity. It stands to reason that the gender best suited to meet the fundamental nutritional needs of the young, i.e. females, would stay to raise children. In these roles, there is a fundamental difference that is based upon the characteristics of each sex. Men are stronger and more athletic, which lends them to being better at hunting and scouting, not to mention essentially expendable when compared to the importance of females to the success of the species. In a crisis situation, females can and will scavenge food for survival. However, as of yet, no amount of concentration from males will yield any offspring. Females hold the important responsibility of bearing the young and ensuring the continuance of the species. They are magic. Ultimately, both genders have an essential contribution they must both make to ensure the greatest chances of success. In the human primate, everything that is cultural is built upon the foundation of this behavior between the genders. What we've seen in the last 100 years has been a revolution in gender roles, thanks in effort to a few pioneering women. As a result, women in the Western world now have every opportunity to pursue their dreams entirely. The problem for men in this era is that their once indispensable niche has quickly evaporated. This issue alone might not be enough to relegate males into a cultural anachronism. However, this is not the only issue facing modern men. Before we get into the legal system's biases, let's properly set the stage by outlining the institution of marriage. Marriage, also called matrimony or wedlock, is a socially or ritually recognized union between spouses that establishes rights and obligations between them and their children, and between them and their in-laws. The definition of marriage varies according to different cultures, but it is principally an institution in which interpersonal relationships, usually sexual, are acknowledged. When defined broadly, marriage is considered a cultural universal. Basically, it's an agreement between two talking monkeys that they will be bumping hoo-has and making baby monkeys. Not only do they plan on making baby monkeys, but they both agree to pool their unique qualifications to this very difficult and admirable task. Now add the phenomenon of divorce, which, from a Western perspective, only really gathered steam in the last 60 years. Initially, women who divorced their husbands had few, if any, legal rights. With the women's movement, women gained rights to custody of children and as much as 50% of a spouse's assets, as well as alimony. At the time, given that women had fewer professional options, this made perfect sense. In many instances, this freed women from abusive husbands who had previously held indispensable sway over their lives. Unfortunately, this previously well-intended system has become rife with abuses. At present, nearly 50% of all marriages end in divorce. Of those, 75% of those divorces are initiated by women. In divorce cases involving children, 80% of those children end up with their mothers, not to mention the house, the cars, etc. Is this the equality that women strive so hard for in the women's movement? Early on, women left for terrible betrayals such as adultery, physical and emotional abuse, or abandonment. Now, most causes for divorce are, quote, irreconcilable differences. Is an irreconcilable difference truly worth $100 million? Will $400 million make a woman whole after being cheated on? When accounted for population, marriage is presently at its all-time lowest level in history. Incidentally, divorce rates are also at their lowest level. Do you think there's any chance that two are related? Do you think it's possible that men are not only avoiding marriage, but also doing anything and everything to keep from being hit with a divorce? Traditionally, men in most cultures have been imbued with characteristics that were seen as having value. Characteristics like courage, stoicism, and utilitarianism. These attributes are now seen as embarrassing, antiquated anachronisms, harkening back to a bygone age where women were viewed as property. And this is where we find modern men and women. If women are encouraged to be all they can be, where does that leave men in comparison? When women ask, where have all the good men gone, what are they really asking for? If we go back to the typical primate models, males earn their place based on their utilities, and females create the incentive for males to demonstrate the highest utility. In a society with more and more highly successful, highly achieving women, the implication is clear. Women would generally only be attracted to someone of equal or greater social standing. Here's a little thought experiment. Imagine the most well-read, interesting janitor on the planet. He's active, he's healthy. Perhaps he has a PhD in philosophy and truly enjoys making schools a clean and safe place for your children. All in all, a very good man. Now, can you imagine Sheryl Sandberg dating this man? Do you think she'd really be leaning into his theories on the collective unconscious? How about Mariah Carey or Madonna? Of course, the inverse of this is successful men who only date models or attractive yoga instructors. Each gender places value proportionately to their own perceived social self-worth. See also hypergamy. Naturally, there are exceptions, but those exceptions simply prove the rule. From a cultural standpoint, there's another 800-pound gorilla in the room. Unfortunately, I have a 3:30 appointment with a space rock, and so I must leave you. Back to you, Don.
Ah, shit, yeah. You want to talk about man babies? I'm your man, baby. Now let's take a look at men in modern society and ask ourselves what's missing. First of all, men are graduating from higher education less and less and with lower GPAs. Role models on TV are either incompetent boobs or athletes who can barely complete a sentence. The identity once afforded to men through their work is no longer an exclusivity, and women are telling men that being a man is toxic. Surely by this point you must be asking, Don, there's still something missing from this equation. Well, dipshit, you're finally onto something. Let's look back at men in the 20th century and prior as a comparison. All throughout history, men have continuously died at an alarming rate, comparatively speaking. The Great War that introduced mechanized murder machines and spawned one of the best fantasy series ever. Check. How about the Great Depression and watching everything you own, including the family you're responsible for, get devoured by sand? Check. World War II and Hell on Earth reimagined. Check. Now wait a second, there seems to be a theme here. Let's look at some other cultures for a minute and draw some wild conclusions. Septic crocodile tattooing in Papua New Guinea. This is a painful laceration process by which boys are scarred to become men. Or how about ancient Sparta, where the final test of manhood was to send a young trained Spartan into a village to kill as many slaves unnoticed as possible. Bonus points for any Padawans. Or how about the Matisse tribe in Africa? Their practice is to temporarily blind their young men, poison them, and beat the shit out of them. Even polite European society had its markers of age. Young boys wore shorts, then capris as they got older, and finally they got to wear the big boy pants when they were called a man. The point here is that throughout history and in almost every culture, boys have endured rites of passage to become men. Here in the West, its rites of passage were more or less stumbled upon by acts of war, desperation, or situational circumstances, but the results were the same. Either you sacked up and became a man through trial by fire, or you were completely ostracized by your tribe. Don't get us wrong and think we're advocating for war, because we're not. We're just trying to highlight that those experiences are the kind that separate the men from the boys. Ideally, we'd never have another war again and could just agree to stop coddling young men after a certain age. And if you're asking about women's rites of passage, they do exist, but in most cultures, girls become a woman with their first menstrual cycle. Nowadays, rites of passage simply don't exist. Boys are often raised solely by their mothers. Mothers, who have even the best of instincts, will provide a nurturing environment for their children. The problem is that without a healthy male influence, this creates an imbalance in children. A complete child needs a feminine and a masculine perspective to mature to a healthy state. So what kind of picture do we have to paint here? Let's see. We've got boys who have little to no guidance in what it means to be a man. No discernible passage of manhood combines with a legal system set against them. I guess the real question here is, why are men showing up at all anymore? All of the former prestige and respect that came with being a good man taking care of his family have evaporated along with the cultural norms that created men through rites of passage. What exactly are the benefits incentivizing men to be anything other than gamer dweebs, smashing their genitals in front of the porn box all day? In the West today, rites of passage simply don't exist. The result is a population of man babies. And lastly, we have the court system. As we mentioned, there was a time when women truly needed help when it came to dissolving a marriage. However, today, men understand that a divorce will mean losing their children 80% of the time, paying lawyers outrageous fucking fees, losing their houses, and paying alimony. Ladies, serious question. Would you roll the dice on a 50% chance of losing everything you cared most about? Perhaps we need to reflect and assess what the new definition of a good man is. Perhaps we need to stop bashing men on TV and make family court systems a little more equitable. Maybe accepting that a good man is no more than a good individual. And guys, if this is totally lost on you, then consider for a moment that you're exactly who we're talking about. Shake the milquetoast off and make yourself the way you want to be. Get good at doing things. Try hobbies that involve making things or being active. Witnessing the fruit of your labors will build the kind of confidence that will encourage you to not only take greater challenges, but also help you better deal with the inevitable failures. Failures create the necessary character to endure through difficult times like war, poverty, and network latency. Just remember that underneath your Giorgio Armani rose-colored MacBook, organic fair trade safe space, is a monkey programmed to do mostly monkey shit. You can tweak that program with culture all you want, but nothing's gonna change the underlying framework. Males and females are fundamentally different creatures designed to serve a unique and specialized function. These two functions are by design complementary. Oh sure, piss and moan all you want. And while you're at it, feel free to send your complaints to the creator himself along with all the fucks I don't give. Well, that's all the time we have for today, kids. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button, and if you haven't subscribed yet, quit being an asshole. Peace, dogs!